Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my dahlia plants here. So I planted both of these a few months ago, and to try and get them a head start, because I was quite late in getting them going, I only really planted them back in March time, and I should have really started them probably January, February, because we have quite a short growing season here in Scotland, and because these plants need quite a long time to start flowering, I have to try and get them a head start, especially as our climate is so cold. So in summer around here it's probably about 17-18 degrees Celsius during the day is a maximum, and about 10 degrees at night. The problem is at that temperature these plants grow quite slowly and their life cycle is slowed down. So because of that, I've had these growing in the polytunnel at my parents' house. That's kept the temperatures nice and warm in the 30s most of the days, about 15 degrees at night, and they've grown really well because of that. So there's two different types here. I've had both of them for a few years now. The one on the left, the red one, I've had that one for about 2 years. The one on the right I've had about 3 years. So they're different varieties of dahlia. The one on the left is a much shorter, more compact plant. And that was about the size it was when I first bought it, although it had more flowers on because it was later on in the year. And this one tends to flower quite early, all summer long. It's quite a nice compact red dahlia with decent sized flowers. The one on the right is a yellow dahlia. It doesn't flower as well. It seems to be a much later variety, a much taller plant and a much bigger flower as well. So this flowers right at the end of the summer. So I don't normally see this flowering much. Normally I get a couple of flowers and then the frosts come and kill it. But this year I've got it to really quite a good size, so I'm hoping it's going to flower soon. We might have a slightly longer flowering season. It's currently the beginning of July, so if I can get this flowering soon, it will flower right through to the frosts. So that would give me a few months of flowering instead of just about 1 month, which is what I normally get. The flowers on the yellow one, they're very big flowers, but to be honest I do prefer the red one. The red one's slightly nicer flowers. So they've now been growing in the polytunnel for a while. So the red plant, as is a compact plant, it doesn't actually need repotting. It's quite, the pot's a decent size for it, so it's going to be staying in that pot for the whole summer. I was tempted to upgrade to a slightly larger pot, but I think that will do for now. So I'm going to leave it in that pot for the whole summer. Give it lots of tomato feed though, something that's high in potassium, and encourage lots of flowering. And that one, as long as I keep deadheading it, it should flower right through to a frost. The big yellow one here, I'm going to take you outside now. I'm actually going to plant this in the garden. The reason being, this plant pot is pretty much one of the biggest ones I've got available at the moment. I don't really have much bigger plant pots, and it's such a big plant already, it really needs a lot more space to grow and get to its full size and full potential so it can start flowering. Because it's a full-size dahlia, it's really suited to being in the ground and not in a pot. But I just had it in a pot to get it started at the beginning of the year. But it's showing signs now that it could do with repotting. As you can see, there's some yellow leaves at the base there. It's starting to get a bit short of nutrients, even with me feeding it liquid feed regularly. So I'll take you out to the garden now, put it outside in the ground. That's going to give it a lot more space for its roots to grow, and then it can get to its full size and fully utilise all the nutrients available to it. So this is where I'm going to be planting the dahlia plant. This is quite an open space, so it gets plenty of sunshine. Basically it doesn't get any shade the whole day, even at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. There's very little shade, so it's going to be really sunny, going to be a good open position for it. The only disadvantage is it could be a little bit windy because it's so open. So what I'll need to do is maybe put some bamboo canes in when it gets a little bit taller, make sure it doesn't get blown over or anything like that. So the reason I've chosen this section is there's quite a hollow in the lawn. It looks like there's originally a tree or an old flower bed there. So what I'm going to do is cut out that depression, use that as a planting hole. I'm going to have to add quite a lot of compost and fertilizer as well. This soil is very poor at the moment. It's been a lawn for a long time, so hasn't had any nutrients or organic matter added to it for a long time, so it's going to be very poor. It'll need a lot of stuff added to it to help the dahlia to get to its full size and to flower well. So I'll start off, I'll cut off all the grass, remove the grass, and then I'll dig in lots of compost and then plant the dahlia plant. So I'd like to show you what the soil's like in this front garden. It's actually really bad. It's basically just like sand. It's very dry because there's no organic matter in it, and it just dries out really quick. It can't really hold much moisture, also can't hold much nutrients. When it does rain, the rain just goes straight through, washes out any of the nutrients. The water just drains right through. It doesn't stay in the soil for long, so you're left with this very dry soil. It did actually rain quite a lot last night, but as you can see, it's very dry, no organic matter. So that's why I need to add so much compost. There's also a lot of stones in this soil. I'll take out the bigger stones because the roots can't get any nutrients from stones themselves. So a few small stones isn't an issue. That will just create a bit of extra drainage, although drainage isn't an issue in this soil because it is so sandy. and I'll just make sure I get as many roots of this grass out as I can, because what will happen is any kind of small roots that I leave behind, they'll quickly start growing again, and then it'll just become part of the lawn. So I'm going to get the compost now, mixing lots of compost, quite a lot of feed as well. I'm just going to use Grow More for this. It's the middle of the season. Normally I go for bloodfish and bone, which is organic slow release fertilizer, but because it's the middle of the season, I need that feed straight away. I'm just going to go with a chemical feed this time. So we're putting the plant pot in. This is going to increase the soil level slightly. I'm going to take a little bit of soil out and just put it somewhere else in the garden, just so that it doesn't get too excessive. But I probably will have this just as a slight mound. I mean, ideally, normally with a lawn, you'd have it slightly lower than the lawn. But the deeper I go in this lawn, the worse the subsoil. And I don't really have anywhere I can put loads of excess soil. So it might be slightly mound, but it's not a big issue. And that's basically why I'm going to be adding loads of compost to this. And it's just going to expand the amount of soil I have. So that's the dahlia now planted. I've also mulched it with compost just to try and stop any weeds from coming up, because that compost probably has a lot of old dormant weed seeds lying in the soil. So I need to make sure the soil's covered up. And covering it with compost, what it does is it stops the light getting to the soil, stops the weed seeds from germinating, and just has a nice sterile layer on the top. So that will keep it looking neat, but also stop the weeds from growing. So that's all from this update. I'll give you guys an update probably in a couple of months' time, towards the end of summer, when this is going to be in flower and at its full size. I still need to stake this, give it a good soaking with water, and I'll probably give it a bit of liquid feed as well, because it'll be probably about a week or so until the roots really start getting established into the new compost. So it'll need a bit of feed just to keep it going. That's all for this update, and I'll see you guys in probably a couple of months.